We're going to watch the biggest school assembly in the whole country. Not your school, a country school. And instead of a principal, the president stands up. And instead of talking about homework, they talk about everything. Schools, roads, money, problems, plans. But before we see the biggest speech in the country, let's start with something tiny. Imagine your family sits down at dinner, and someone asks, "How are things going? And what should we fix next?" That is the State of the Union. The State of the Union is a message. It's the president telling Congress, here's how the country is doing. Here's what's working. Here's what isn't. Here's what I think we should do next. It's actually written into the Constitution, which basically means it's homework the president has to do. The Constitution says the president must give Congress information about the country from time to time. Not a suggestion, a job. This is where it gets interesting, because it looks like a speech, but it's really 3 things happening at once: a report, a plan, and persuasion. The president explains what's happening, suggests ideas, and tries to convince lawmakers to agree. But here's the important part. Nothing changes yet, because speeches don't make laws. People do. Now imagine putting almost all the leaders in one giant room, both parts of Congress, House and Senate, all together. That's called a joint session, and it usually happens inside the Capitol building. It's like the biggest group meeting a country can have. There are cameras, guests, applause, sometimes awkward silence. It feels like a show, but it's actually a conversation about the future. The first one happened in 1790. George Washington stood up and basically said, "Here's how the new country is going. Here's what we should build next." Simple. But then something weird happened. For over 100 years, presidents stopped speaking it out loud. They just sent letters. Because the Constitution doesn't say it must be a speech. It only says the information must be shared. Then, in 1913, the speech came back, and suddenly it started looking like the modern event. Microphones, crowds, big moment. Then technology changed everything. Radio meant people could listen. Television meant people could watch. Prime time meant millions were paying attention. The audience changed. It wasn't just Congress anymore. It was everyone. And now, clips, memes, viral moments. But here's the twist. The viral part isn't the important part. The boring part is. Because that's where laws begin. Most State of the Union speeches follow a pattern. Values, problems, plans. What matters, what's broken, what to do. Over and over. It's like patch notes for a country. But remember, patch notes are not the update. The update only happens if Congress agrees. You'll often see people sitting in the balcony. They're not random. They're guests. People whose stories represent an issue. Someone brave, someone helped by a program, someone struggling. It turns policy into people. Stories help ideas feel real. Right after the president finishes, another speech happens. Shorter, from the other political party. Because government is not one voice. It's disagreement on purpose. Different ideas about how to fix the same problems. That tension is part of how democracy works. This is the part kids rarely see. After the speech, nothing happens immediately. Instead, lawmakers write bills. Committees study them. Both chambers vote. The president signs or vetoes. Only then it becomes a law, which means the speech is the beginning, not the ending. The speech talks about priorities, but money follows a different process. Budgets are separate rules, separate timelines, separate fights. The speech points the direction. The budget decides what actually gets built. Because the State of the Union is both politics and media, people watch different parts. Some watch for ideas, some watch for moments, a surprising line, a reaction shot, a guest story. That's how viral moments happen. But viral is not the same as important. The State of the Union is basically a country saying, here's where we are, here's where we want to go. Do we agree? It doesn't change rules overnight, but it changes attention. And attention changes what gets worked on. Schools, roads, science, healthcare, help for families. Sometimes nothing happens. Sometimes everything starts there. Next time you see a clip, try this. Can you spot 3 values, 3 problems, 3 plans? Then watch what happens after. Which ideas become bills? Which bills become laws? Which disappear? Because the real story of the State of the Union is what happens next.